Hey, what's up guys, welcome to my spoiler-free review of Deadpool 2. Right off the bat, I just want to say that this is how you do a sequel right. I just had an absolute blast with this film, right from the first minute all the way up to until like the mid-credit scene. And nowadays, you don't see many successful sequels, at least not to the level of movies like Deadpool 2 or even movies like Days of Future Past and even Spider-Man 2. And yeah, I'm putting Deadpool 2 on this list of just phenomenal sequels to previous films because it is that good. So the first thing that really pulled me in was actually the cinematography. This isn't something that I usually talk about in my reviews, but with Deadpool 2, I think they really stepped it up in that department. Deadpool 1 had some good cinematography, but it didn't blow me away as much as Deadpool 2 did. I know this isn't like a huge factor for reviews, but I think it's just something to mention. It's the first thing that really grabbed my attention from the moment that the movie popped up on my screen. You know, the color palette just felt a lot more vibrant, and all the colors just blended better, and they just flowed more naturally than the first film did. But to the main points, the whole cast was just such a blast on screen. This was definitely a step up for Ryan Reynolds, because Deadpool 1, you can kind of look at it like this. Deadpool 1 introduced us to Deadpool, but Deadpool 2 basically just fine-tunes or perfects the character. That's the way I look at it. And then Josh Brolin as Cable was just a total badass on screen from the first moment you see him all the way until the end of the movie. And arguably, I'd say that he's definitely more badass as Cable compared to Thanos. And I'm not sure if this is how you pronounce her name, but Zazie, I think that's how you say it, Zazie Beetz as Domino was surprisingly likable. Mostly because from all the trailers, I wasn't all that invested in the character. I don't know, I just couldn't see her as Domino. But then when you actually see her in action, in the actual movie, it's just a complete eye opener. And I'm so glad that she was in the movie because it was just a really strong supporting cast member right there. Julian Dennison, which is the bigger kid in the movie, he was just such a delight to watch on screen. Ryan and Julian just had this great chemistry on screen, and I just wish we saw more of that. You know, we get that a lot in the first act, and then we don't really get in the second act, and we get a little bit in the third act. Actually, we get it quite a bit in the third act, but I still would have liked to see a little bit more of that. Both those characters they just work so well together on screen, and it was just an absolute blast. That kid just has such a bright future ahead of him. The rest of the cast was also great. You know, they all just blended so organically with the rest of the main cast, provided quite a bit of good humor. But I'll touch on my humor aspect a little bit later. Next would be the writing. The first film, despite how much credit I gave it when it first came out, had its moments, but I feel like Deadpool 2 really reached a higher mark. Kind of the mark that the first movie was trying to achieve but didn't quite get there. I feel like Deadpool 2 really hit that mark. There were a few moments around the second half where the writing got kind of just overstayed its welcome a bit, but nothing that made the movie like flop worthy. Most of it was just really beautifully crafted lines, and there's a lot of great dialogue and great exposition. It's just a lot of really good writing right there. This brings me to the next and probably arguably the most crucial point of a movie about Deadpool, which is the humor. So a lot of the humor, I'd say, was definitely much more well written than the first film was. You know, first film, the comedy in the first one, I just didn't click with me as much as the second movie did. And that has to do a lot with the writing, and it has to do a lot with the delivery and timing of the comedy. And I just felt much more organic and just much more just natural here, because I felt like a lot of it in the first film was really just forced. And with this movie, it just happens. Like, you don't expect it. And that's the kind of humor that I really got good, actual hard laughs out of. Because in the first film, it was just a few chuckles. Just props on that humor. It's just absolute delight to hear. You can literally just watch this movie just simply for humor. That's how good it is. Even the fourth wall breaks were just a lot more entertaining. A lot of that, as I said earlier, has to do with the delivery and timing of each line. So next would be the action sequences. There were a lot of great action sequences right from the first few minutes. Just that opening scene, that first fight scene, and then goes all the way until the final fights in the third act, and all of them were just such a blast to watch. And I'll definitely go back and watch this film just for the action. That's something that Deadpool movies have always been really good at, is just having these really badass action sequences. There were a few moments around the second half, I want to say, where there are a lot of really quick cuts here and there, and it got a little bit messy at times, but it wasn't anything that was like that provided a major flaw to the film. There was a scene around the second half, around the second act of the movie, which pretty much rivals the highway scene from the first movie, and that was just such an absolute blast to watch. You know, you've probably seen parts of it in trailers and stuff, but when you see the whole thing pieced together, it's just so much fun to watch. Just seeing all the characters work together, and it's just a blast. My only actual gripe with the movie would be some of the scenes near the end. There were a few scenes near the end where the movie wasn't really quite sure if you wanted to be like more leaning towards emotional, or if you actually wanted to keep like the Deadpool humor flowing through it, and it kind of went back and forth between the two, and you can tell that they were actually trying. It wasn't always some kind of like joke that they're trying to do, but they're actually really trying to kind of blend both of these like contrasting aspects together, and I just didn't feel like it worked out. Now keep in mind that this doesn't ruin the ending of the movie. I'm talking about scenes that are like just before the ending of the movie. The ending itself is actually really good, in my opinion. I think it's definitely as good as the first film. What both Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 do at the end of the movie is that they basically reveal the underlying theme of the movie, or at least they kind of just conclude on it. But that's one thing I've always liked about the Deadpool movies is, you know, despite all the humor, despite all of the bloodshed, there's always that like really like heartwarming underlying theme at the bottom of everything, and they just put that like at the top, right at the very end of the movie, and that's what I've always loved about both of these movies. So last thing I want to talk about is that there is a mid-credit scene, but there is not a post-credit scene. It's like all the way after all the credits roll. There isn't anything there, but halfway through, there is one scene, and I can easily say that this is probably the best post-credit scene that I've seen, probably since the first MCU post-credit scene that we got, where Tony Stark meets Nick Fury. I could even say that this is even better than that, because this scene is just, it's so meta, it's so just Deadpool. Like, what would Deadpool do? And he just goes to work, and I'm not gonna go into all the details, but it's typical Deadpool, and it just brought a smile to my face, and it's just really worth sticking around for. So definitely stick around for that. You will not be disappointed. But overall, Deadpool 2, with its humor and narrative flaws aside, is one hell of a sequel, right from minute one all the way until the end of the movie, with its vibrant cinematography to its organic cast, chemistry, and everything in between. This is how Deadpool was meant to be. Overall, I give Deadpool 2 an 8.9 out of 10. So let me know what you guys think about Deadpool 2. Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you have mixed feelings? Also want to know what you guys think about the actual humor of the film, because I know there's a lot of people that love the humor of the first film and a lot of people that didn't. So I want to know your thoughts on the humor as well. Did you like it? Did you connect with it more? Did you feel like they kind of made it worse? So let me know what you guys think about that. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, then smack that like button, as always appreciated. And if you have any comments or questions, just leave those down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And if you want to see more reviews like this and more superhero content, then hit subscribe to see more. I'll see you guys next time.